Hello, all you beautiful and amazing people. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the show. If you're new to the channel, I'm your host, Hyde, and this is Hide and Seek Media, where we talk about news, sports, politics, and so much more. In this episode, we're talking about Brian Laundrie and is he guilty or innocent? Could there be an explanation as to how Gabby died at the hands of somebody else other than Brian? I'm going to get into the timeline, kind of break down some of the eyewitness statements that have been given, and give you my thoughts on a possible scenario that could prove Brian innocent. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I said innocent because here in the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty. Nobody has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Brian Laundrie is responsible for Gabby Petito's death. The coroner hasn't said anything, and the FBI has not issued a warrant for his arrest in regards to the death of Gabby Petito. Right now, the warrant is for fraud for using her bank card, right, after she died. And we'll get into that too, because that to me seems like a pretty weak warrant. And I'd like to know how the judge came to the conclusion that he was fraudulently using that card when they were engaged to be married and traveling. So we're going to get into all that and much more. But before we do, make sure to click the link down below and join my locals community. With your premium subscription of just $2.99 a month, you get access to all of my videos, articles, and exclusive content only made for locals. If you're tired of all these big tech social platforms censoring you, putting COVID tags or false misinformation tags on your posts, shadow banning you, or altogether blocking you, then head over to locals and join my local community today. And remember, you can always support the channel by clicking the merch link in the description below and picking you out a funny political t-shirt like this one or this one. Now, let's get to it. So here we have CNN's timeline of the events that happened leading up until Brian's disappearance and Gabby's body being discovered. So we're going to start on August 12th because that's where all of this seems to go awry, right? So on August 12th, there was a 911 call to the Moab Police Department, right, where someone had called saying there was a domestic disturbance and that they needed to be called in, right? So we're going to go ahead and read CNN's report from here. So Moab, Utah, police have an encounter with the couple on August 12th, where officers describe them as having engaged in some sort of altercation. Now, anybody who's been in a relationship knows that these kinds of things can happen, right? Not uncommon for a young couple in a long-term relationship to have these kinds of altercations, as they call them, right? They continue to say, although the two are described as getting into a physical fight following the argument, both the male and female reported they are in love and engaged to be married and desperately didn't wish to see anyone charged with a crime. A report from Officer Eric Pratt says. Sorry for that. At officer's suggestions, the couple separated for the night, according to the report, which describes Petito as confused and emotional. After evaluating the totality of the circumstances, I do not believe the situation escalated to the level of domestic assault as much as that of a mental health crisis, Officer Daniel Robbins writes in the report. No charges were filed. The couple each had their own cell phones in case of emergency. In a 911 audio recording from that day provided to the Grand County Sheriff's Office, a caller tells dispatch he wanted to report a domestic dispute and described a white van with a Florida license plate. The caller said as they were driving, the gentleman was slapping the girl. Then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off. So if that were the case, I'm sorry, but Gabby probably would have had some kind of marks on her, would have said something at that point if she felt like she was in danger or something was wrong. I'm pretty sure at that point she would have had the wherewithal and the common sense to ask police to help her out in that situation. But as we can see, that didn't happen. They separated them. Gabby gets the van. Brian gets in hotel. And the next day, they meet back up and everything is fine. They move on to their next destination, right? So now we go to August 17th. And this is a key day because this is the day that Brian leaves Utah and flies back to Florida, right? According to his lawyer, right, he says Laundrie flew home to obtain some items and empty and close the storage unit to save money as they contemplated extending the road trip, Bertolino told CNN. On August 23rd, Laundrie returned to Salt Lake City to rejoin Petito, the attorney said, adding, to my knowledge, Brian and Gabby paid for the flights as they were sharing expenses. So, right there, if they were sharing expenses, FBI, tell me how you can file a fraudulent warrant against him when he was using the same bank account as she was the entire trip. So I kind of call that warrant from the FBI a little suspect. All right. So let's go on. CNN reports that on August 27th, a Louisiana couple vacationing in Jackson, Wyoming, said they saw Petito and Laundrie involved in a commotion as they were leaving the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant. Nina Angelo, who was at the restaurant with her boyfriend, said Petito was in tears and Laundrie was visibly angry, going in and out of the restaurant several times and showing anger toward the staff around the hostess stand. A restaurant manager told CNN she saw an incident at the restaurant August 27th, but declined to give her name or describe what happened and said the restaurant did not have any surveillance video of the incident. So, what happened? We don't know, but I will get back to this in a little while because this is a significant detail to the story that a lot of people seem to be leaving out, or at least not digging into a little deeper. So we're going to get into that part a little bit later, so make sure to stay tuned, right? So let's go on, right? So CNN goes on to say the last week of August, okay? So this is a breakdown, basically a breakdown of the last few days of August in which Gabby Petito had contact with her parents and then ultimately supposedly went missing. Okay, so they say Petito's family told police they were last in contact with her during the last week of August. Before the last communication, Petito is believed to have been in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, police say. In a news conference in September, Petito family attorney Richard Stafford says the family's last communication with Petito was August 30th, but they do not believe the message they received was from her. Stafford shares a timeline of events on September 17th as the family knows it. Okay. On August 24th, Petito FaceTimes with her mother and tells her she's leaving Utah and heading to the Teton Range in Wyoming. On August 25th, there are multiple texts between Petito and her mother. The young woman's family believes she is in the Tetons now on this date. August 27th, more texts between Petito and her mother, during which her family believes she remains in the Tetons. August 30th, her family receives the last text message from Petito. They doubt she wrote that text. According to Stafford, the message read, "No service in Yosemite." Now, there is another report, which I will link in the description below, of another set of timelines where they report that that's not what the last text messages said. In this other report, it's reported that her last text message was something about her grandfather, and that what made them suspicious was the fact that she called him Stan and she never called him Stan. So I don't know who's lying here, whether it be the lawyer, CNN, or the other news station which reported that. But you can check that link down in the description below. And you tell me who's lying. All right. I kind of have an idea of who it is, but why don't you guys tell me? Leave a comment down below. They go on to say, also in September, a woman publicly claimed she and her boyfriend gave Laundrie a ride on August 29th in Wyoming. And Laundrie claimed he had been camping by himself for multiple days while Petito was at their van working on social media posts. In a series of videos posted on TikTok, Miranda Baker said she and her boyfriend picked up Laundrie that evening while she was hitchhiking in Coulter Bay. Okay? Coulter Bay. Now we're going to get to that in a minute because that is quite a distance from where Gabby's body was found. Laundrie told them he had been camping on a site outside the Grand Teton National Park near the Snake River. Once Laundrie found out Baker and her boyfriend were going to Jackson Hole instead of Jackson, he got agitated, asked that the vehicle stop, and got out near the Jackson Dam, according to Baker. Now, I'll bring up a map here in a minute. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead. Okay. So, just so you guys can see. All right, so just so you guys can see, I pulled up the map. Okay. And I've also marked down, as you can see, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Grand Teton, Wyoming, Coulter Bay, Wyoming, and Northport, Florida. These are all key points in the story, right? So if I zoom out just a bit, we move over here. Here's Coulter Bay. Okay. This is where that lady, around this area, is where that lady said she picked up Brian Laundrie. And then when he got agitated, dropped off here, right? Dropped off around Jackson Lake Dam. Now, we do this here. This is Spread Creek. This is where Gabby's body was found. See how far of a distance even Snake River is from this area, let alone where he was dropped off at way up here. Okay, so if these accounts are correct and this girl Baker is telling the truth, right? Then they picked him up hitchhiking at Coulter Bay, Wyoming. He said he was staying at Snake River. Well, you saw the map. Here, Coulter Bay is up here. Snake River is right here. Here's Snake River too, right? So I would imagine they picked him up probably somewhere around Oxbow Bend, right? Given this area. So right around here. So that's still quite a hike, right? If he were to have killed Gabby after the 27th, mind you, because she was seen alive on the 27th in that restaurant. So she would have had to have died either the 27th, 28th. Okay? Because on the 29th, he was seen here. There's no way he could have hiked from here to where he was picked up in just, well, maybe he could have made that hike in one day. I don't know how experienced he is as a hiker, okay? But he could have made that hike, right? He could have. Right? Her account is plausible, it appears. Northport police spokesman Josh Taylor said, CNN has not been able to independently verify Baker's claims. Additionally, Norma Jean Jolovic, a seasonal Wyoming resident, told CNN she picked up Laundrie not far from the Jackson Dam on August 29th and gave him a ride to the Spread Creek dispersed camping area where Petito's remains were later found. Okay. According to Jolovic, Laundrie told her he and his fiance had a travel blog. She was in their van at the camping area working on the blog and that he had been hiking along the Snake River embankment for days. Jolovic said she later provided the FBI with that information. She said when they arrived at Spread Creek, she dropped Laundrie off before the gate at the entrance of the camping area. She said she offered once or twice to take him farther, but he was insistent that he get dropped off at the entrance. Laundrie then offered her gas money, but she declined. Jolovic said she picked him up around 6:15 p.m., which was just a few minutes after Baker had said she had departed her vehicle. So the next day in the timeline is September 1st. Laundrie returns to the couple's Northport home, where his parents also live, on September 1st, according to police. According to an affidavit attached to a search warrant request, a license plate reader shows the vehicle exiting Interstate 75 into Northport at 10:26 a.m. Eastern. So, we're going to stop the timeline right there. Everybody knows what's happened after that. He disappears. He still hasn't been found. They find Gabby's body 3 weeks later or 2.5 weeks later. And, all of this other stuff ensues. That's not what I'm getting into. Okay. What I'm getting into are these 10 or 12 days. Okay. From the 23rd on, we're going to get in. Well, maybe about the 17th on, we're going to about to get into all of this, right? Because here's where, if I were an attorney, I would start my argument. August 17th, Brian leaves Gabby alone in Utah for 6 days. So, does anybody out there have a report of what Gabby was doing in those 6 days in Utah? Does anybody know? Are there photographs on her Instagram page? Are there videos on their YouTube channel? I don't know. Post comments down, and let me know. Is there an accounting of what Gabby was doing between August 17th and August 23rd? Because I have read multiple reports where friends of Gabby were saying that she didn't want to be in this relationship with Brian anymore and that she was conflicted about marrying him. Okay, well, let's take that premise down the rabbit hole a little bit. Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, that her friends are right, that Gabby was contemplating not marrying Brian, didn't know whether she was going to stay with him or not. Maybe the fight on August 12th, the argument was about that. Maybe Brian was a smooth enough talker to be able to convince her, hey, let's try this. Let's close the storage locker. Let's close everything down in Florida and let's do this for real. And let's, have nothing tying us back to Florida. Let's just start over, start out here. Maybe he convinced her of that. And that's why he flew back to do all of this, right? Sell everything, close the storage locker, all that crap, so that they would have more money to come. But who knows what Gabby was doing in those 6 days that she was there by herself? I don't know. I can only speculate, right? But if I take it down this rabbit hole and speculate that maybe she met somebody, maybe she had a good time in a couple of days while she was, van lifing it on her own. Maybe she realized, this is what I want. This is the kind of life I want with this guy or with these people, maybe, right? Brian comes back. They travel to Wyoming. They go to have lunch at this restaurant, Mary Piglet's. Gabby sees somebody from her 6 days alone, somebody she met or friends or whatever the case may be, right? Conversation happens. Brian sees something he doesn't like. Maybe there's some mutual flirting going on between the two. I don't know. Brian gets upset. Gabby's upset that Brian's upset. So she's crying. Brian's mad because there's some guy flirting with this girl. I don't know. We could speculate 100 different things as to why Brian was mad at that restaurant. Okay. But let's take this down a logical path, right? Let's say that Brian, in his fit of anger and let's just say that Brian, in his fit of anger, had a moment of clarity and realized, hey, why don't we do what the cops did when we had this kind of problem? The cops separated us. Why don't you take the van and you go to Spread Creek? I will meet you there and I will go hiking and go camping for a couple of days, clear my head, think this over, figure out what our next move is or what my next move is if we aren't going to be a thing, right? Maybe that's what he did. Maybe he was hiking. Maybe these hitchhiking stories are all legit. They seem to be because both people that he encountered said this same story, that he told them the same story. Now, I don't know. Maybe he's a good liar. I don't know. But maybe they got into a fight and he just went camping on his own. She went to the Spread Creek dispersed camping area or whatever, which he knew she was going to go to because they had pre-planned this or whatever. And so when he was done camping, he decided, hey, I'm going to hitchhike back to the campsite so that I can see my girl. Maybe the Miranda Baker story about wanting to go to Jackson versus Jackson Hole, maybe that's not even legit, right? I don't know about that part of the story being legit. And maybe Brian just got confused and didn't understand or didn't realize, or when he realized they were going to Jackson Hole and it wasn't going to be anywhere near the dispersed or the Spread Creek dispersed camping area, that he got mad and was like, okay, don't just let me out because you're going the wrong way. I need to go the other direction, right? Maybe that was the case. And maybe somebody's just trying to sensationalize the story a little bit. I don't know. What I do know is that there are some holes in this timeline. Okay. So when Brian gets back to the campsite, 7:30, 8 o'clock, depending on how long of a drive it took to get from where they picked him up to, let's say 7 o'clock, right? Let's say it was a 45-minute drive. They got back 7 o'clock. Maybe he wants to surprise his fiance and show up and be like, hey, babe, I'm back. I love you. You know, I want to work this out, blah, blah, blah. Maybe when he gets to the van, nobody's there. Because there are other reports of people who saw the van parked on the side of the road for 2 or 3 days with no signs of activity. All right. Well, Brian apparently was gone for those 2 or 3 days. If we believe his story that he told the hitchhikers, right, or the people that picked him up while he was hitchhiking, if we believe those stories, right, then maybe Brian wasn't there. Maybe Gabby went to this dispersed camping grounds and there were other people that she had met in Utah at these dispersed camping grounds. Maybe one of them thought he had a shot with Gabby. Maybe one of them thought that she really liked him or something. And they went off for a walk in the woods. He made a move. She said no. He got mad, strangled her, left her for dead. I don't know. But Brian gets back to the campsite, empty van. Well, what do you do when you show up looking for your fiance? You find her van and she's not there. Well, you grab a flashlight and you start looking, right? You start looking around. Maybe he did. Maybe he, for 2.5 hours, however long, I don't know, hours, he searched and searched and searched. And maybe he was unlucky enough to find her. Dead body, laid out in the middle of the woods. Cold, lifeless, strangled. In distraught, he reaches down, he grabs her, he holds her, crying. Now his fingerprints, DNA, and hair are all over the body. And he's sitting there distraught. And he realizes, I was the last known person to see Gabby alive. I have had an altercation with Gabby that is recorded by police. She is dead. They are going to pin this on me. And he freaks out and takes off, goes back, leaves her where she's at, goes back, gets in the van, and heads straight for home because he doesn't know what to do. Best thing to do, go talk to my parents. Head home. Got to get some advice. I don't know what I'm going to do in this situation. He gets in the van and he drives 36 hours. I think there is a very good possibility that Brian Laundrie didn't do anything. That he is a victim as well. Maybe that's why the local law enforcement there haven't charged Brian with murder. Maybe that's why they've ruled Gabby's death a homicide at this time and nothing more, because they can't determine if Brian is the actual perpetrator. Now, if they had enough physical evidence to tie Brian to her death, he would have been named the sole suspect in her murder. But he's not. He is named a person of interest in her homicide. Those semantics mean something. That to me tells me, okay, that the FBI and the coroner's office do not have enough to tie Brian to her death. And they need him to confess in order to pin this on him. He knows it, and this is all in conjecture. This is all assuming Brian is innocent. Okay? Because in that situation, if it were me and I was in that situation, I would have run too. There's no way you would have been able to find me right now. I would be in hiding too, because there's no way I'm going to get railroaded by a shoddy justice system when they are not looking for any other suspects. Now, there's one more even wilder and crazier theory that I can come up with that has nothing to do with Brian per se, but maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a fellow van lifer that took Gabby's life. Maybe it was a man by the name of Mike Bullinger. That's right. There's a link down in the description below about a story about a man named Mike Bullinger who committed triple homicide, killed both of his wives and his stepdaughter in Idaho, got in a car, drove to Grand Teton National Park, to this very area where Gabby's body was found, and disappeared, never to be seen again. No body found, no bones found, no trace of him found anywhere. This guy was a outdoorsman, a survivalist, a pilot. He could have easily disappeared into the woods and lived off the land for multiple years. Also, there was another body discovered not far from where Gabby Petito's body was found. This person was the victim of an apparent suicide by a gunshot to the head. Yet, there's no reports of a gun actually being found next to the body. Just a duffel bag. No gun. And it seems to me that the coroner in this case is a little shady. There's a couple of times where this coroner has ruled accidental deaths or accidental drownings as suicide by drowning. Now, I don't know about you, but I believe you've got to be a sick puppy to want to kill yourself by drowning. So this coroner seems a little suspicious to me too. Now, I can't link coroner to Mike Bullinger or even any of these people to this case. All I can say is that there are some shady things that have gone on around the Grand Teton National Park and with this coroner. So, I don't know. You take from that what you want. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about my theory. If Brian Laundrie's innocent, if he's guilty, why you think he's guilty, let me know. And if you've made it all the way to the end of the video, man, I appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell so you get notified anytime I drop a new video. Smash that like button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video and the topic. Man, I love engaging with my viewers, so feel free to fire away. Also, I'm trying to change the URL of this channel to my channel name instead of all them funky letters and numbers up there. But the only way YouTube is going to let me do that is if I get 100 subscribers. And the only way I'm going to get 100 subscribers is if people like you share this video, because YouTube is not going to share it. And I'm not going to get the impressions I need to get 100 subscribers. So I need all of you people out there to smash that share button. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.